You've explained net neutrality a couple, three times, but I think you better do it again because, man, now they're protesting at Ajit Pai's house. Now, he's the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, and they're protesting at his house. And, of course, they've got all of the millennials and all the tech bloggers are all caught up in this, believing that net neutrality is equality and fairness and sameness and does not allow the evil cable companies and the evil internet service providers to gouge you and to overcharge you. And nothing could be further from the truth. I had a great interview with Professor Thomas Hazlett, my friend from the old Sacramento days, who has written a book. I would really recommend, and I've recommended it 2 or 3 times, his book, The Political Spectrum, Thomas W. Hazlett. In fact, it's written for laymen in its verbiage, thereby easy to understand, and it's a history of the regulation of the telecommunications industry. And what it demonstrates, and he was great in the interview to Limbaugh letter, and I'm going to excerpt some of it here during the program today. He's just excellent in pointing out the history of regulation of the entire spectrum, wireless, FM, AM, television, police band, air traffic control, you name it. The regulation retarded. Do you realize that we could have had cellular communications in the 50s? FM radio was delayed 20 years because of the power of AM broadcasters to shelve it, influencing regulators. The history of the telecommunications industry is the history of regulating it and impeding it. And net neutrality is an often used misnamed term that's designed to make everybody think that no one user, no one provider, no one company will have any more access to the internet than any other. And there's one of the best analogies I could give you on this. And I'm going to get back to Roy Moore in a minute. I never lose my place. The pro-net neutrality people have come up with analogies to try to help people understand what they think they're trying to propose. And they use Federal Express and Amazon as their illustration. And they say FedEx delivers Amazon's packages, and they're all treated the same. No package gets any preferential treatment. FedEx gets the packages, they deliver them. Nothing could be further from the truth. Whether you're talking about Amazon or Schmamazon, you can choose your delivery speed. You can choose how many days, weeks. You can choose the kind of delivery you want. Do you want ground? Do you care if it doesn't take a month? Do you want it tomorrow? Do you want it in 2 days? All of that depends on how much you are willing to pay. And the providers of both retail products and those who deliver them will accept any form of payment based on the services they offer to give you that package when you want it. If you want to pay the least, then you can buy FedEx ground or UPS ground or whatever and have it delivered in 3 weeks. If you want to pay, you can have it delivered the next day. If you want to pay a little less than that, you can have it paid or have it arrive in 2 days. There's all kinds of flexibility, and it's based on what people are willing to pay. All packages are not treated the same. All Amazon, all FedEx, all UPS packages are not treated the same. And these people, I can't believe they use this as an example because it's so easily blown to smithereens. Well, instead of Amazon, think of Amazon as your internet service provider. And instead of FedEx, think of the internet itself as delivering the product. And if you want the fastest internet, you can go out and ask if your provider provides gigabit Ethernet. And if he does, and you find out what it costs and you want to buy it, then you damn well expect that your download speeds are going to be gigabit Ethernet. You're paying for it. If you don't care how fast your internet speeds are, you can go El Cheapo. And see, this is the real rub. What the tech bloggers and the left don't like is that there are options. and that there is a freedom in the marketplace, and that people can choose superior service if they're willing to pay for it. And if somebody's willing to pay for superior service, the providers had better provide it. But if everybody's treated the same, the only way everybody can be treated the same is if there is a massive regulatory agency that is watching and controlling and inspecting virtually every aspect of the internet every day. And they're looking for violators because they want to punish them. It is impossible for there to be sameness and equality when it comes to the transfer of data, for example, over the internet, which is what we're talking about here. But there are other mass forms of communication, too, that would come into effect. But it's typical of the left. If you want the government running the internet, if you want the government policing and in charge of every aspect of the internet, then by golly, by gosh, support net neutrality. Net neutrality is misnamed. There's nothing neutral about it. The government controls it. The government regulates it. If you like government regulation, if you like how government regulation retards things, slows things down, gums things up, causes mistakes to be made, then by all means support net neutrality. It does not mean that certain people are going to be given preferential treatment. It means that you will be able to buy whatever service you want, and the provider will provide it. And if the provider doesn't provide what you're paying for, then you have recourse to cancel, get out of it, go somewhere else. It is regulation that would turn the internet. Look, the internet has grown like wild, and it has grown precisely because it has not been regulated. It really isn't a complicated thing at all. What complicates this is another misnamed political project, net neutrality. I mean, who could be opposed to neutrality? That means nobody is given any preferential treatment. And isn't that what we're all about? Nobody's special. Nobody gets anything better or faster than anybody else. And that's what we call fairness. And that's what we call equality. And that's what we call happiness. And that's what we call sustainability and whatever other cockamamie thing we use to describe it. But it isn't the real world. How about the government regulating airline travel speeds? Yep, we're only going to allow jets to fly 300 miles an hour because some people can't afford to fly at 700 miles an hour or 6. I mean, the whole thing is the people that are in charge of promoting, ridding the telecommunications industry of these Obama-era rules. Would you like to know what the net neutrality, what it's based on? It's based on something called Title II, U.S. Code Title II, 1934 telecommunications law. There wasn't an internet in 1934. There wasn't television commercially available in 1934. And yet that's the series of regulations and laws that Obama put in place to have them apply to modern day communications technology, and it's absurd. And the reason Obama and the Democrats and the left is all for it is precisely because it puts a government in charge of it. The government regulates it. And I'm going to give you some examples today, Professor Hazlett, from his interview. You'll be stunned at the slow pace of technological innovation because of regulation. The internet, remember when it first started, when people really, really got into it? And I'm talking about being able to browse websites. The first browser was Mosaic, then Netscape came along with theirs. And everything was free. Newspapers published websites with the exact content of their published editions and more. Everything came online. Everything, data and information began added, and nobody was charging anything for it, which was their big mistake. They created the idea that if it's on the internet, it's free. Now they're having to charge for it, put things behind paywalls. They're having trouble because of so many years. But the point is, it wasn't regulated. And look how fast it grew. And look how fast the tech improved. And look how widespread available it became. And when it became so powerful, when it became so widespread, when it became of age and had demonstrable influence, that's when the left wants to get their grubby, crusty paws on it and start regulating it for their political benefit. It's not about your provider shutting down data speeds to you while speeding them up for some corporate customer. If you want to pay for it, you'll be able to get it, just like in anything else in a free market. And if you can't afford what you want now, you work harder, and maybe someday you will be able to. But there's always going to be an option until the government gets it. I got to take a break here, folks, a little long. Be back in a minute. Don't go away.